Goeiedag iedereen. We zijn klaar om te beginnen. Kunt jullie ons horen? Oké, perfect. Goeiedag. Wij zijn Veilighaan, dat is het eerste woord voor vlindertje. En die zijn onze vriendjes. Dat is Bert, Maartje, ik ben Nicolas, dit is Anaïs. En ja, ik kom uit Ierland. Ik wil een beetje eerst de muziek voor jullie spelen, omdat morgen Saint Patricksday is. Oké, ik hoop dat jullie het leuk vinden. Oké, we gaan beginnen. Ja. Het eerste... sorry, mag ik in Engels spreken? Zou dat een probleem zijn? Oké, dat is perfect. Yeah, my English is better than my Dutch. The first tune is going to be called "The Lark in the Clear Air." I learned it for my grandmother. She passed away recently. It was a slow air in Ireland called an Ierse, and it was set to lyrics by Sir Francis Ferguson in the late 1800s. His mother had collected the melody from George Petrie. And after that, we're going to go into a set of polkas, and from there, play some jigs and reels for about an hour. I hope you enjoy. Dankjewel. Dat gaat ook. Kunnen jullie ons horen? Oké, perfect. We're going to continue with a pair of jigs. We played them most recently at a storytelling night in Abdij van Vleerbeek. So, yeah, the first one was called The Castle, and the second one was called The Nightingale. So it's on Cashlon August on Fishigach in Irish. And, yeah, goes something like this. How does that? Counter? Thank you. So that was a set we picked up from Sean Ryan, and sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier, the Nightingale, because we're beside the Nachtigall Alan. It seemed like a fitting choice. So we're going to go on with two tunes that we found in two very old tune books. One of them has a very catchy title of Reel 386. It's now better known by its name of Hang On to Your Hat. And the second reel has a slightly more confusing title of The Whitrick with the Grey Tail. A whitrick, that's in weasel, is a weasel. So it's actually a Scots tune rather than strictly Irish, but it's a lovely one, so we'll forgive them. Yeah. Even stemmen. Ugh. Despite my wife's better judgment, I changed my violin strings today, so they're dripping. Told you so. Yeah, exactly. So it's, as always, it's my fault. Because it is my fault. Oh, Aaron, is it okay? Yeah. Yeah, he's better over. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. De volgende is een hornpipe. Er is een beetje plaats naar voren als jullie willen zitten. Gewoon om te zeggen. Yeah. And thank you to all the children for being so good. Yeah. The next tune is called King of the Fairies. It's a hornpipe, a very famous set dance. And we picked up our version from John Sheehan from the Dubliners. And last I checked, he's the last of the Dubliners still standing. Oh yeah. So, hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
us out.
We're good at following you.
Yeah, thank you. Good thing I'm not good at signaling. Yeah. So we made a few mistakes there, but it's okay. You didn't notice. No, you did. Yeah. So we have something a bit unusual now. We have it's a barn dance followed by a slip jig followed by a reel, and the barn dance Bill O'Malley's barn dance is not so. Bill O'Malley's Scottish. Sorry, it's Scottish. It's not actually a barn dance at all. Sorry, Bill O'Malley's Scottish followed by a slip jig with the fun name of The Night Before Larry Got Stretched. He apparently wrote it the night before he was hung, and the last tune is called The Silver Spear. It's a lovely tune, but it hasn't got a fun story. So first, us three. One, two, three. Thank you very much. So, let's tune a little bit. Unfortunately, I'm the one who's most out of tune, but I have to do all the explaining.
And the next one has a really difficult Irish title, so I can't do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Close enough. Yeah. So I was going to do a song for you. It's called Casa an Tugon, and it's about it's an immigrant song. It's about a man who comes to a foreign country and doesn't find what he's looking for. He works as hard as he can, but he still doesn't really make his way. And I think it's lovely. I picked up my version from Ierse Leonard, and I also mixed it with a version from the Chieftains and a little bit of Ethno Cahoin as well, who's a lovely singer from Muskerry. So I won't talk about it. I'll just sing it, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah. I'll do it without the microphone to save you. Cada chas in shadow he show me Scar McCallin jazz ayoin Emma who hagim yo ken Isker cas mestach Matter of shark agus grog yarn machli Karantan vanamach meek kas an tugan in fair Is ma vien tu liom bi liom a star in machri Is ma vien tu liom bi liom bos Agus ma vien tu liam gerliam gachorlach dedochri Sim vila knok nach liam de dau noch tu marni Is tamach liam salia le blian agus ni le kri nach te Sni vahina brer na brora peis daun skele agus tamedia le blian is gone file gomer tain Is gergjalle fia mer sleef go meger choin Eric. Stand here. Is ma vien tu liam ki liam a star in machri Is ma vien tu liam bi liam os korti Agus ma vien tu liam gerliam gachorlach dedochri Sema vila knok nach liam de daunach tu marni Is doch rauchen derschen churren shilin shachri Is der jene Waberhocker all in den Rhein? Is der Karkrofenig? Is mir a hure vern fair? Is nie hele banle farna jen hus an hein? Is ma vien to now be now ma story ma free. Is ma vien to now be now most chi. Agus ma vien to now garliam gachorlach de Shema vilak nok nach liam de tau noch tu magni. Hello. Anything after? Yeah, okay. Great. All right. So something slightly happier. This song is called "I Buried My Wife and Danced in Her Grave," and the next one is called "Banished Misfortune." So, hey, Bert, what time are we on? What time are we on? 6 to 12. Jeez, better hurry up. So, we mostly do Irish tunes, but because it's Saint Patrick's Day, it only seemed fitting to do a few Welsh tunes, because Saint Patrick was, of course, not Irish at all. He's Welsh. He came to Ireland to convert, so by definition, he was a foreigner. Is it up?
Picture was already there.
Yeah. Come on, sister. Yeah. So we picked up a couple of Welsh tunes just in honour of the man whose day we're celebrating.
Maybe I'll sit out the Welsh ones.
Okay, so we're going to play this with a skeleton crew. The baby calls. Okay. C minor. Okay. Grand. Okay. 1, 2, 3. It's okay, he's my son. So I also included a few Welsh tunes because I know Robin, who's from my work, his family have Welsh connections, so it only seemed fair as well. And I see a few other people from my work. Ziggy, oh yeah, Jimmy. Thanks everyone for coming out. So we're approaching the end. We just have a few more sets to you. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're adjusting the set list in real time to deal with the hungry baby. And slides. So we're going to play a few slides. They're a dance form that's very common in Cork and Kerry, in particular the Cork and Kerry border. It's a place called Sliabh Luachra. Thank you, Ron. That one? Yeah, very good. So the first one is called... I can't remember the names. Doesn't matter. Oh, the first one's called the Coolay, which is a region in the Muskerry Gaeltacht, I think. And the next one is called the Star Above the Garter. Don't think about the title too much. And the final one is called Wallop the Cat. I didn't write them, so I don't control what they're called.
Mama.
Do you want to get off the stage?
Mama.
Okay, come on.
Papa.
Yeah, that's me. Here.
Hij gaat even bij ons zitten. En
Okay, we're going to do our last 2 sets and then probably feed the kids at home. Thank you so much for coming out. First one, we do Numa Meadow first and then Donegal set to end? Just change the orders. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, wait, hang on. What are we going to after this? Sarah's Bonnet into Poison Mountain, cool. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do a polka as a slow air, because that's it seemed like a good idea at the time. It's called Where the White Lilies Grow. Then we're going to immediately go into a set. We call it the Donegal set. It's got a Shetland tune in it. You know what? I'm just going to get cracking, and because who knows how long the patience will last.